Hi, my name is Melissa McCarver. I'm a program coordinator at the Beaver Watershed Alliance, and this is Nate Weston, another program coordinator at the Beaver Watershed Alliance. The Beaver Watershed Alliance is a 501c3 nonprofit in Northwest Arkansas. Our mission is to proactively protect, enhance, and sustain the water quality of Beaver Lake and its tributaries. Today, we're at Beaver Water District to simulate different watershed scenarios with their stream table. What is a watershed, you ask?
A watershed is an area of land which concentrates rainwater into a central area, into rivers, streams, and lakes. And all that water exits that watershed through a flow point or a pour point into another watershed until it eventually reaches an ocean. What we're looking at today is this stream table, and it's filled with not sand but a repurposed plastic. Streams naturally want to meander, and we see that channelized stream up here. It's stayed remarkably stable, but down here, when we start seeing that interaction with the stream bank, it starts becoming, in an engineer's sense, unstable, and it starts meandering more. And in an urban environment, that causes complications that we don't really want to see. So like we have this house right here, and we have a problem. We've got water underneath our house. And fast forward, some time, we're gonna see this house is gonna go into the stream. And so this is what we have when this is why we have laws that say you can't build in the floodplain and things like that. So in an urban setting, say we have a strongly channelized stream with 5-foot banks on both sides, and it's scoured out. Normally what happens is when channels start to do this, the natural human reaction is to come along and scour out or dredge some of that soil out. So we're going to do that. We're going to say, hey, my channel is getting out of hand, so we're going to scour it. Initially what happens whenever someone does this is you have a head cut that forms at the point where they scoured or dredged, and that head cut just moves upstream. And as it does that, it's depositing and eroding the stream bed itself, so it's deepening itself, or self-scouring as they say. And a head cut is basically a ledge that you can't really see underwater. We have one that's actually forming right here. You see how that disturbance upstream is depositing this material downstream, and it's forming this little ledge that's right underneath the water. In time, what's going to happen is as water moves over this ledge, it's going to interact with that surface, and it's going to scrape sediment off of that again. So it looks stable right now. It looks like it's building a stable system, but it's not. When it does that, it's going to take all that sediment and it's going to flush it back downstream. All right, so about 5 minutes later, we're following up on my channelized stream in this storm event, and it looks a little different than it did earlier, doesn't it? You notice the channel has widened out, and even though it looks roughly sinuous or meandering, it's mostly just wide and shallow. Unfortunately, this is a terrible habitat for fish because it's shallow. They don't have much shelter. There's not much oxygen in this water, so this would actually be a stream with very, very low biodiversity. You'd see mostly bluegill, sunfish, and worms, and maybe crayfish, and generalist species like that in there. Some of the other big things that we're seeing is we have a car. This car used to be on the stream bank, and this could represent a pasture, a field full of cattle, or something like that, or a house, and now it's in the stream bed. It didn't used to be. We have one house that's collapsing as we speak, and we have another house that was sitting right here that used to be high and dry, and now it's in the water. And the reason it did this is because we kept scouring and scouring and scouring this channel, hoping that it would stay in those banks. And as we see, it naturally wants to meander and does what it wants. It wants to not look like a straight stream. It wants to look like this over here. It wants to have that vegetation on the sides, and it wants to have that meander to it.
To mitigate the erosion that happens due to these large flood events, having increased riparian buffers or your trees on the side of your creek, the best thing you can do is have more of those. If you're in a city landscape, having rain gardens or bioswales to catch your roof runoff are really great practices that you can do to decrease runoff from your property. Having huge swaths of land is not really feasible, especially in an urban setting. So having Ways to catch your runoff. Rain barrels are another great way. Then you can repurpose the water you catch in your rain barrel for your garden or watering your lawn. For farmers, if you have pasture land, obviously you need to graze that. We have, you can also aerate your pasture to increase water infiltration into your soil. That will decrease the amount of water going into the streams and keep it on the landscape. Just really any way to keep water on the landscape and not in the stream will help decrease erosion. Remember, the most important thing is to spread it out and slow it down.